Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. So happy to have you along. I hope your week is going well. And if not, you've reached the midway point and you can start again. But appreciate you being with us. Looking forward to another fun show, as always. Loaded cast. Dylan Sinn will join us early on. And we'll talk about a big night in college basketball across the board, starting, of course, with Indiana getting the improbable win at Michigan State. But it was one of those, it was the same feeling I had about 5 years ago, I guess, when Archie Miller did the same thing after however long it's been, when Indiana had lost like 13 in a row, but they go to a Michigan State, and they were in the top 10 at the time, and beat them. And it was a similar situation last night as Indiana looked as if they could do no wrong, everyone contributing. And it was a fun game to watch, actually, for the first time this season. Indiana's biggest win without question on the year. And in quite some time, I guess, since you can say they beat Purdue. But anyway, we'll talk about that and much more. A lot of other college basketball in the Big Ten and elsewhere to get to. But in the Big Ten, it was a big night as all the top 10 teams were in action. The teams at the top, Purdue, Michigan, Michigan State, UCLA, were all in action, and a little shakeup in the Big Ten standings as now Purdue, they lose to Michigan. Michigan is now in the lead of the Big Ten Conference by itself by a half game over the Boilers, and Michigan State now drops a game behind with Wisconsin, a game and a half back, and UCLA 2 games back now, as they take a loss last night at Illinois. Illinois staying on the rise as Illinois is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're in 7th place by themselves, it looks like right now. But the Illini at 17-8 overall. Boy, all those teams. Nebraska has slid up there. They're a quiet 16-8 on the season. Only 6-7 in the conference, but they're one spot right behind the Illini. But big nights in the Big Ten as Indiana gets a gigantic win for them, the biggest win of the season, of course. And it looked, boy, that second half, everything went Indiana's way. And they took advantage of it. They did the things that they needed to do. Boy, I hate to say it, but they should have made that announcement maybe 3 games prior to that, and then Indiana would probably be playing in the NCAA tournament, especially the way they looked last night. Led by Malik Renew with his 19 points, 12 rebounds, a double-double. He was 8 of 19 from the field, and he would have been a lot better than that. He just missed some bunnies early on, but that's okay. It came around. Luke Goody, he contributed. He went 3 of 6 on the night, 2 of 4 from deep, and 2 of 2 at the free throw line. And those free throws would come in to be greatly important toward the end of the game. Ballo was locked in last night, man. He was 6 of 8 on the night, 14 points, unstoppable. And they Michigan State had no answer for Indiana's bigs on the inside. They have a couple of guys, but they just couldn't stop them, and they fouled Cooper out. And although Ballo would foul out, Indiana had Malik Renew to come back in behind that. Mackenzie Mbako only with 7 points on the night, but let me tell you how important those points were. He was 5 of 6 at the free throw line, and I think all 6 of those free throws came at the end of the game, and to help seal that game, because Michigan State was right there within 4 points, and they were started to play the foul game. Indiana hit their free throws down the stretch, whether it was Mackenzie Mbako, Miles Rice hit some, and then even Anthony Leal, who was a 56% free throw shooter, he knocked down a pair, and that kind of just sealed the deal for Indiana as they win on the road. Big time win for them. Now you start thinking, had they been able to get that Purdue win, had they been able to manage to get that Maryland win, well, and they get this win, the conversation about Indiana's season is a little different. I don't think it changes a lot. They're still underperforming, but we saw what they're capable of and should have been doing throughout the year. Now, I don't know that it's a coincidence. I don't know that it's not, that they played as well as they played last night after what has just happened. I have to say, Mike Woodson seemed to be the most engaged he's been all season. Maybe I'm just reading into something that's not true, and Indiana goes to the zone to completely disrupt anything that Sparty was trying to do. So probably his best coaching job, maybe of his 4 years that he's been here, to be quite honest with you. But a great night in the Big Ten. Like I said, UCLA goes to Illinois. They lose 83-78. Indiana knocked off Michigan State 71-67. You also had USC still on the rise, man. 92-67 at home over Penn State. Oregon picked up a win at home against Northwestern. And then you look at the Big Ten standings now. Michigan alone at the top. Purdue right behind them. Michigan State behind Purdue. Then you have Wisconsin, UCLA, Maryland, and Illinois. So a lot of fun. Other college basketball action last night. Man, Liam McNeely woke up, and boy, did he have a night, as UConn is taking on, I think, number 24, Creighton. Unranked UConn. Let me add that. UConn is unranked right now. But McNeely, 38 points in 38 minutes. He also has a double-double, 38 and 10 on the night. He was 12 of 22 overall, 5 of 10 behind the deep line, and one of those was from well behind the NBA three-point line. He was 9 of 10 at the stripe as well. 8 defensive rebounds and a couple of offensive rebounds to give himself a double-double on the evening, and more importantly, a 70-66 win for UConn. And Danny Hurley back at it, his antics. He was catching some grief from the Creighton fans as he was walking off of the floor, and I saw him just saying, bye, bye, and then he kept pointing to his ring finger and then holding up 2 for the 2 rings. Bye. 2 rings, bye, 2 rings. I'm like, come on, man. But, hey, that's part of the spice of college basketball. So I don't know that I don't know that it bothers me that much. But big fun night in college basketball, and looking forward to talking to Dylan Sinn about it as he'll join first up on the dais from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. And that and plenty more. Let's go ahead and take our first break. Appreciate everybody joining us, whether you're on one of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call. in Evansville, or the voice of the region, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WJOB, and in Fort Wayne on 1380 The Fan, Fort Wayne's only sports station. Keep it locked right there for great coverage throughout the day. We're back right after this with Dylan Sinn. Maybe we are, and maybe we're not. Waiting for the producer to hit the right button. Now we're going to do it.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. So glad to have you along, as well as Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Jim? Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. You didn't happen to make it up to East Lansing last night, did you?
I did not. No, I stayed home so I could cover both games that were played last night. So I had stories in the paper this morning on Purdue, Michigan, and Indiana, Michigan State.
Look at you go, man. An ambitious young man.
That's right.
But yeah, big games last night in the Big Ten with all 3 of the top 3 teams in action and 2 of those teams going down. Obviously, it had to happen, but probably not what most people expected to see. Michigan beating Purdue, not a surprise. But Indiana going to Michigan State, it just had that feeling of going into that game of 4 or 5 years ago when Indiana was under Archie Miller and they had lost like 13 in a row, and they beat a top 10 Michigan State team then. It's just kind of weird. But also, and maybe more importantly, it prevented Tom Izzo from becoming the all-time leading wins leader in the Big Ten, replacing Bob Knight by beating Indiana. That would have not been good for Indiana. So it's great that they were able to push that back, at least for a game.
Yeah, I did think it was pretty ironic that the ultimate man-to-man disciple kept his record with his zone defense helping him out.
Yes.
I thought that was pretty good. Indiana used his own most of that game, really played good defense, and Bob Knight's record stays for at least one more game. So, yeah, really good win for Indiana there. Huge to to make Tom Izzo at least sweat it out for one more game. That was pretty nice for them.
And speaking of that zone, they played probably the best defense I've seen them played all year. They were locked in on their man, even though they were in a zone. When they would draw their assignment, whomever came in, they were locked in on those guys. Like I haven't seen them locked in all season long, even while playing man to man.
Yeah, no, it really was interesting because that's the thing about a zone, right? Is eventually when you get down to it, a zone is a man-to-man defense that just kind of you change men more easily, right? Like that's just how a zone works. You're gonna have to guard someone at a certain
it's more
point.
like a matchup zone, I guess.
Exactly, right. And so Indiana did a really good job of it. And I thought they did a really good job of just they executed the game plan. Like you said, they were where they were supposed to be in a way that they haven't been most of the year. And I think that's kind of interesting is that, I mean, they've had so much trouble this season on defense communicating. We've seen that for several years now where you have two guys running at the same shooter when you rotate, or you have guys switching and going over a screen when they should have gone under it, or vice versa. And it's just not really coherent. And last night was coherent. Last night they were where they were supposed to be, which was a welcome change. And Michigan State, that first half especially, Michigan State shot 32% in that first half, scored 29 points. And that was after scoring 20 in the first about 8 minutes or so, because they were up like 20-8. And then Indiana comes roaring all the way back. And it was really, really impressive to see in a hostile environment, Indiana take a punch and just keep coming. It was kind of a lot of what we've been wanting to see all year and haven't. And so it was like, all right, first of all, great job. Second of all, where has this been?
Boy, don't get me started. I mentioned that earlier. I said, you know what? They should have made this announcement 3 or 4 games ago. Indiana would be playing in the NCAA tournament. Because if this is what has led to that, I think Mike Woodson did his best coaching job maybe in his 4 years last night. I think this team played obviously the best game they've played all year last night. And is it because of the response? I mean, it can't just be coincidental. There's just no way. I mean, there seemed to be a heightened sense for all involved. And while it's great to see because it answers a question, what will Mike Woodson and this team do the rest of the season? I've been wondering how they were going to react. Were they just going to pack it in? And no, they sent a message last night. No, we're going to fight. We're going to fight through this season. They think they still have a shot at making it to the NCAA tournament. While that is highly unlikely, it is not impossible because they do have more games coming up of quality nature. You've got a game with Purdue coming up still that can add to that. And just imagine, had they been able to get that win over Purdue and Maryland, we're having a completely different conversation right now as far as the postseason aspirations of this squad.
Yeah, that's kind of why it's a little bit frustrating because you had those games. You had Purdue, you had Michigan, you had Maryland, right? All those 3, you probably win 1 and definitely 2 of those 3. You're in the field right now. And that's why it's a little bit frustrating because it's like this team obviously is capable of being there, right? And the fact that they haven't been able
should
to
be there. No,
yeah,
should not capable.
Right.
Should be there.
Yes. And so that's why it's frustrating because there was a window to do it and they didn't get it done when it really, really mattered. And so now you have your backs to the wall and you're not out of it, but you really need a nice run here at the end of the season. And it's not impossible, but you put yourself in this position because you didn't get it done previously. And then that's what's frustrating because again, as you said, the talent is there and to be a winning team here. Like, again, if you had beaten Michigan on Saturday, or if you'd beaten Maryland, or you'd beaten Purdue, suddenly you're 500 in Big Ten play. You're 16-9 overall. That's not super impressive, but it's probably in the field. And it's again, where was this before? Where was this ability to finish? And to be clear, it wasn't like they were stalwart at the end of that game either. They tried to give that game away last night with poor free throw shooting and the same things that cost them the other games, but they just had built up a bigger cushion. And so make a free throw, one time. We don't ask for much. it's like Miles Rice, 88% foul shooter, misses the front end of a 1-and-1. Trey Galloway continues to struggle at the foul line to the point they had to. I'm sure people noticed this as well. They had to take him off the floor when they were on offense. Your starting point guard, you had to take off the floor because he would struggle so badly at the foul line. They can't trust him. He's a very, very good player for the most part, and they can't trust him at the foul line. That is which
is incomprehensible to me.
Yeah,
just like Anthony Leal is a 56% free throw shooter, but got to give him his flowers. He made 2 big ones.
Yep.
2 really big
away.
Ones. And that first one just caught the front of the iron, kicked to the back, falls in. Second one was nothing but net. But those were gigantic. As a matter of fact, Mackenzie Mbako, he only had 7 points on the night. But, man, 5 of those points came in crunch time at the free throw line with him all by himself up there and the Michigan State players in the Breslin Center, and he knocked them down. He missed one of those. I think it was his very first free throw he shot at that group, but he knocked everything else down smooth as silk.
Yeah, I actually liked what happened there. He missed the first one, like you said, and then he made 5 in a row. But after the first one, he kind of like basically he got the high fives from his teammates, and you could see on his face like, okay, I'm good, don't worry about it. And then he hit the second one, nothing but net. And I think not only did he make 5 in a row, none of the other 5 even hit the net, or even hit the rim. They all were complete swishes. He was obviously locked in. Good for him for having the mental toughness to miss that first one, shrug it off, and keep going, and just really help Indiana put that game away. I'll admit, I was not a fan of the strategy at the end where they fouled on purpose up 3, which usually I like, but with a team that struggles as badly as IU does at the foul line, that's asking a lot, right? Because Michigan State,
they were putting themselves in a tough position, no doubt. But I still think, even though Michigan State and Indiana, people combined for the entire game to shoot 7 of 36 from behind the 3-point line for about 20%. That's these two teams combined. Indiana 3 of 13, Michigan State 4 of 23. And that's exactly why you foul, because you knew that they were going to hit a freaking 3-pointer when you're on a 4 for 23 night. It's damn sure going in without question.
So that was my thing is that you've been making them shoot threes the entire night. Why don't you just make them shoot one more 3, miss it, and get the rebound and end this thing? But
Dylan, the loss of probability.
I know. But that's the thing.
Know that Maryland. Let me bring up a certain game.
Yes,
Maryland.
I know. Ago. But Michigan State is a terrible 3-point shooting team in general. They came in last in the Big Ten, under 30% as a team. Michigan State is a worse 3-point shooting team percentage-wise than Indiana is. That they are 348th in the country. That's 17th worst at 3-point shooting. And of course it probably would have gone in. Of course I would have been wrong. But that was my thought. Was just hey, you've been making them shoot threes the entire night. They've been missing them. Just have them shoot one more with a good contest, and if it goes in, great. But don't make yourself hit free throws to win this game. And they did, and Anthony Leal and Mackenzie Mbako made them at the end. So, you can kind of just go, phew, and move on.
And Todd Leary has said this all year long, and not, he's not alone, I'm sure. I haven't been one of them because I hadn't been following Michigan State. They're not that good. And I'm not taking anything away from Indiana's win. That's a hard fought, hard to get win. And so I'm not taking anything away from everything that they did to get that job done, because Michigan State had won a lot of games in a row before they lost here recently. But I'm like, okay, they're not as good as Purdue. They're not as good as Michigan. It's going to be interesting to see where they actually end up in the standings. They built that big cushion up, and they're still sitting 3rd right now. But they've got games coming up. They've got to play Michigan 2 times. as a matter of fact. And that's going to be a hell of a battle because Michigan has a unique situation with Danny Wolf, and Michigan State's issues last night were trying to deal with Ballo and Renew, and they had no answer for either of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michigan State is basically, it's funny. It's actually kind of close to an Indiana team that we've seen from the last couple of games or last couple of seasons. It's a whole bunch of really, really athletic tweeners, right? Like they don't have a ton of size. They don't have a ton of shooting. They just have a whole lot of athleticism that's gotten them through over the course of the season because they're well coached. But there are teams that are going to be able to take advantage of what they don't have. And last night, Indiana was able to take advantage of what they don't have, which is a lot of beef inside, right?
Where's the beef?
That's right. And take advantage of that inside and then take advantage of their lack of shooting on the other end. And I think the broadcaster said it at the end of the game. It was Austin Rivers was on the call, play-by-play, basically said Indiana had provided the playbook for how to beat Michigan State. Now, obviously, they were not undefeated going into this game. Teams had done it before, but I think a lot of teams are going to try to do what Indiana did, which is just play zone, make them shoot a bunch of threes, keep them out of the paint, which is where they live, and then on the other end, force feed their post guy and just kind of get inside, get some rebounds, and go from there. Because where Michigan State is best is out in transition. That's what Mike Woodson said, is that this team loves to get out in transition. That's a Tom Izzo staple. And if you let them, they're going to run you off the court. And Indiana just said, we're not going to do that. We are not going to let you get up and down the floor on us. And Michigan State wasn't able to do it, except on very rare occasions.
Yeah, Fred makes a point that I think that is true. Michigan State doesn't have the go-to guy. They don't have the guy that they can just count on for that bucket. And you need that, and they just don't. And I just don't see them faring all that well in the postseason, to be honest with you.
They got to host. You said they got to play Michigan twice, which is true. They also have to play Purdue next week, a week from Tuesday. So it might not go so well for them here over the last couple of games, because if they can't deal with Malik Renew and Umar Ballo, I think they're going to have trouble with Trey Kaufman-Renn too. He might have a big game in that one. So it's one of those things where it's kind of the opposite of a typical Tom Izzo team, where usually those teams started out pretty slow because they played such a tough schedule, and then they congeal as the season goes on and they're playing their best by March. This team might struggle down the stretch of the season and be kind of figured out by the beginning of March.
And another big important thing before we hit our first break is Indiana is fighting to stay out of the bottom three and to make sure they make the Big Ten tournament. This goes a long way in kind of giving you that buffer, at least to not only play on that first day, but be the higher seeded team at least.
That's right. And there's a whole bunch of teams that are kind of enmeshed there that were 5-8. Indiana getting to 6-8 is pretty important. You have a big game now against UCLA on Friday, which is huge. UCLA coming in with an opportunity for Indiana. UCLA lost last night to Illinois, so they come into Bloomington with a chance for Indiana to get 2 in a row here against really quality opponents. And suddenly, if you win that one, you're kind of rolling a little bit. So we need to figure out, Indiana needs to figure out a way to kind of coach it up the way they did for the Spartans last night.
Hey, we've got to take our first break. And speaking of which, if you know of someone or are someone who would enjoy doing some advertising or sponsorships, whether it's in Evansville or Fort Wayne, Hammond, Chicago, or on the network, reach out to me, man. It's a lot less expensive more cost effective than you might think. Back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. with a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music. You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the hard truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company's studios on this Wednesday, joined by Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Indiana coming off of a huge win last night, their biggest win not only of the season, but in some time, as they beat Michigan State in the Breslin Center on the road. So good win for the Hoosiers, but that does not change the fact that Indiana is in the midst of a coaching search for the next coach that will replace Mike Woodson. Lots of names being batted around, Dylan. But the one thing that I keep trying to caution people is that, you can throw all the names out there you want, but there's a lot of these names that simply are not viable. And that's whether it's mostly contractual, or like there was an article about Buzz Williams. Okay. Well, that's great that you can stir that up and get some clicks, but did you check out what his buyout was or mention that in the article? No, it was not, which it's $12 to $16 million. It ain't happening. So why waste people's time with that? I've gone through several of them. And of course, Dusty May he has to be at the top of Indiana's wish list. This is just an assumption. This is not my wish list. I'm just assuming what I think is the picture. His buyout is roughly $6.5 million because that includes a bonus that he would have to repay. And it drops another $1 million after April 1st, which I don't know that unless Michigan's playing in the national championship, that wouldn't even come into play. Scott Drew, a name that has popped up before. He's actually financially doable. Whether or not he would want that job, I don't know, but he's actually financially doable. Chris Beard.
Really quick. Scott Drew turned down Kentucky last year. Something to remember. I know that he has the Indiana connection with Homer Drew. I get it. He turned down Kentucky last year. So just something to remember for people who want Scott Drew.
And that's why I was saying, if sometimes things change, and maybe he's looking for a different challenge, maybe because of the NIL and the portal, maybe going to Indiana now would be different. I don't know. But he's someone that is financially doable for. He is accessible, at least. Chris Beard, accessible from a financial standpoint and contractually. Brad Brownwell, Clemson, Indiana native, Evansville. Not only an Evansville native, this guy was a teammate of Calbert Cheney at Evansville Harrison. So we haven't even gone very far. Those are 4 solid names. Indiana did not have these kind of options the last time around. People want to throw Brad Stevens in there, and that's a farce. He's making $11.2 million with a hell of a lot less pressure than being a college basketball coach. So those
a lot less work too, by the way. I think that's the important part. Like, that's the thing with college basketball coaching right now. And we see the same thing in football, but basketball is the same way. And that's why Coach K, Jay Wright, Tony Bennett, Jim Boeheim, Roy Williams, these guys have all retired because they're like, first of all, this is not what I signed up for. It's way more work than it was before because you have to recruit not only new players, but your own team on top of that. You have to, the transfer portal adds a whole layer of complexity. Now revenue guys coming in.
But with the exception of Tony Bennett, these guys were all old and
they were old
retirement age. Let's be honest here.
It's fair, but they all of them retiring around the same time suggests to me that there was something about the new era that they
actually had to get off their asses and work again. And
there you go, right? And so for Stevens, it's not just the money; it is being
from his position. Absolutely,
exactly.
It's just like no.
Yeah, there is no amount of money that you can offer him that's just going to overwhelm him to the point that A, it's more than he is now and making now, and B, that he would take on that much more work and that much more pressure right after winning a title. It's going to be one of those things where if it is Brad Stevens, and I'm not saying it's going to be, and I'm not saying it should be, but what I am saying is
I'll say that it will not be. How about that?
Right. Okay. Fair enough. But if it's going to be in the moonshot that it is, it's because he decided this is what he wants to do. It's not because of the money, and it's not because of any kind of change in scenery. It's because he wanted to do this, and that's the only reason it would happen.
All right. So those coaches I've listed that are on a lot of people's minds. But then there are a couple that have been mentioned a lot. Ben McCollum, Drake head coach. Kind of reminds me of Kalen DeBoer, of how he came up. Big time winner. He's won like 4 national titles at the D2 level, doing well at Drake. He's 21-2 in his first, or 21-2 in his first year. Yeah. I think that he's financially doable. Don't have that information. Then you have Mark Byington, who is at Vanderbilt, formerly at James Madison, and who worked with Kurt Signetti. And I remember James Madison having some success, which is why he's at Vanderbilt now.
Yeah. 32-4 in his last year there.
Wasn't that how odd and ironic would it be? Now, I remember back when Buffalo started becoming, and I'm like, who in the hell is Buffalo? They were good in football all of a sudden. Then they were good at basketball. And I'm like, what the hell is going on in Buffalo? Never heard of the school. And, well, guess who the football coach was? Lance Leipold. He's at Kansas. Guess who the basketball coach was? Nate Oates. He's at Alabama. So don't think the great coaches don't come from these places. Kurt Signetti. Maybe Byington completes the James Madison exacta for Indiana.
Yeah.
And does it? I don't know, but that's another possibility. After that, I don't know. Grant McCaslin, a lot of people bring his name up. He's at Texas Tech doing a great job. He's got kind of a higher buyout, $8 million. So
here's the thing, really quick.
Is a no-do.
Yeah. Here's the thing with these Texas schools right now. It's the same thing with Buzz Williams. It's the same thing with McCaslin. These Texas schools are swimming in cash. They have so much money right now they are committed to winning.
Can I go for a swim?
A lot of these yeah, there you go. Right. So they're Scrooge McDucking it over there. And they would probably match anything that IU is able to offer because they have so much cash flowing around right now. And I think that McCaslin or Williams would be great picks for IU. I don't think either of them is doable just because both of their schools could match what IU is doing. McCaslin especially has been in Texas basically his whole life. It's one of those things, like he was at North Texas before he was at Texas Tech. He beat Purdue in the NCAA tournament. So that is a reason, like that's something for IU to hang on to. But it's one of those things where they're in Texas right now, and there's really no reason for them to leave unless, again, they want a destination job, which is like, it's one of those things where you have to want it beyond the money. You have to want it beyond what IU can give you. It's just, do I want a job like Indiana? We have no indication that either of them is really looking for that kind of job. Maybe they are, but we don't have any indication of that yet.
Absolutely. So what are your early thoughts? I know that it's all it is a guessing game, to be honest with you, because there's no way to know what. Personally, I believe that it all starts and ends with Dusty May and whether or not he has interest in the job.
Yeah. And I know we had a comment earlier about that he's negotiating a new contract with Michigan. That does not mean he's not interested in the IU job, right? Like they're negotiating until the ink is signed on that contract. Indiana is going to be calling, right? It's one of those things where, they're negotiating, and he's using one team to leverage against the other, right? Like that's what a smart agent does for his client, is make sure that he takes advantage of the opportunity that he has. Dusty May is in a very advantageous position right now that doesn't come around all that often. So you take advantage while you can, but until he signs that new contract with Michigan, Indiana is going to be in the mix. So I did think it was interesting. He didn't explicitly say, I'm not interested in the job Saturday. Now, part of that is because of it's a contract negotiation. You don't want to give up leverage in that way. But it was a very good atmosphere in Assembly Hall. My guess is he is at least somewhat interested, and we'll see what happens. Let me ask you this: why do you not think that TJ Otzelberger is the guy? Is a possibility?
Let's see.
I'm high on him.
It's not because of his coaching ability.
Yeah. What's bandied about is he just signed an extension in December. I understand that.
Do you know what his buyout is?
Well, it hasn't been fully reported yet. I know it's rumored to be high. I get it. But
I've got 15 to 18 million.
Yeah. And like, I know it's high, right? But
there's no way that anybody with that kind of number is doable in my imagination, because that is a risk beyond risks. If you're going to take that kind of a risk, why don't you take a risk on Chris Beard?
Yeah. Like I get that part of it. I do think that Otzelberger is one of those things where I think he wins big. I think he would,
I do too. But I think Chris Beard wins big.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Is it worth spending $15 to $18 million from a starting point?
Yeah. And that's fair. And that's fair. Right. Now, part of the question is on part of the discussion here, and maybe this is not part of Indiana's calculus. I don't know, but how much is Mike Woodson going to be paid on the way out the door, right? Because his buyout was somewhere around 8.5.
Well, they can choose that, but
he's right.
They can spread that out. That can be spread out over 8 years.
Because they had to pay Archie $10 million on the way out the door a couple of years ago, and they spread that out. But it's one of those things where they have the money to pay a big buyout. If they have a guy that they like and he wants to come, and the only thing that's standing in their way is a big buyout on the other side, my guess is they pay the buyout, right? Like, I don't think you're like, if Scott Dolson comes to the donors and says, you know what, TJ Otzelberger is my guy. That is the guy that I want. I think they pay it. Like, that is not going to stop them from getting the coach that they decide they want, would be my guess. Now, maybe Dolson decides, well, there's someone else I can get for the same amount that I like is just as much for less money.
Okay, let me stop you there, and playing devil's advocate. If you're willing to pay $15 to $18 million buyout, why would you just not add that to what you are prepared to pay someone like, say, Dusty May, if that's who you truly want? Again, people, don't confuse me throwing these things out with, oh, Jim wants Dusty May. You know what? I think Dusty would be great. I think Chris Beard would be great. I think TJ Otzelberger would be great. Don't confuse my opinions on who IU should get as coach as just talking about these options. And if you're going to pay $15 to $18 million just for a buyout, I don't see why you would not add that on top of paying someone who's probably maybe a first or second choice. And again, if Dusty May is the guy that they think checks most of the boxes better than anyone else, and he does check a lot of boxes, and that includes winning. People, I've seen some people say, "Oh well, he hasn't proven himself yet." Are you out of your stinking mind? He took a freaking Florida Atlantic team to not only to the Final Four within a last-second shot made by San Diego State of going to the championship game, and he's now taken Michigan in his first season. They are leading the Big Ten right now. Don't talk to me about proving himself. Get the heck out of here with that crap. So, with that said, maybe he's the guy, maybe he's the not. I don't know. And then, my next question then, Chris Beard. My personal opinion is Indiana just won't go there. Do I think he's a hell of a coach? Yep. Do I think he would do well in Indiana? Yep. Do I think that he would have Indiana winning next season? Absolutely yes. I just don't know that Indiana, especially with you have the lawsuit going on right now with the ex-players, it would bring in and people that want to talk about, well, the charges were dropped. Nobody cares that the charges were dropped. Do you think that didn't happen? Come on. I mean, I'm not hanging him, but don't be stupid either.
Yeah. Here's my thing. I'm gonna say this, and I understand that people are feel very strongly about this. So please, I am not trying to get anyone's goat here. What I am saying
it's a tough line to walk, Dustin or Dylan. Trust me.
I know. Believe me, I know. Texas still fired him. The charges were dropped. I get.
Well, they kind of had to because that was in the moment.
I know, but it's still happened, and it is hard to get past.
And Ole Miss hired him and went from 13-22 to
a
15-0 start, and now a top 25 ranking in the toughest conference in the United States.
Yes. Here's my thing. Ole Miss has to hire guys with some baggage because they are not an elite program. IU can get a good coach who doesn't have the baggage because they're IU. Right.
Okay. Then why haven't they?
So that's the question. I think my opinion has been for a while. They had one with Tom Crean and they fired him too early. That is my opinion. It has been for a while. They made the wrong hire with Archie and then they made the wrong hire with Mike Woodson. I don't think that is, but teams make the wrong hire twice in a row. It happens. It doesn't say anything about the larger program. That is just the way that I feel that it happened.
And if we look back, okay, they didn't make the wrong hire with Mike Davis. They didn't have a choice.
No, it was one of those things. Yeah.
And he rewarded them.
Yes.
I don't care what anybody says. He went to the championship game his second season, and you want to talk about, there was Knight's players. Who do you think recruited those players? It wasn't Knight. Knight did not recruit players in then. Okay, then Kelvin Sampson.
Was
not a bad hire. It was a great hire.
Yes.
A great hire. And people still just want to hang him because of maybe it was stupid to do what he did, but maybe he also realized how stupid it was about phone calls, which was so stupid. The NCAA changed that rule the next season, but it decimated the Indiana program. But there may have been some other stuff that was going on with him. Maybe he wasn't the disciplinarian he needed to be then. Obviously, he's looks to have learned a lot of lessons between then and now because he's doing pretty damn well at Houston. So that wasn't a bad hire. Tom Crean did an unbelievable job with what he inherited and what he turned Indiana into. But I think that his peculiarness at the end just kind of it was just like a stick, on the end. It just starts going wider. You just never knew where it was going to go.
Yeah.
So, it was time. Archie Miller looked like a good hire on paper.
Yes. It was a good process, bad result. We talk about that in baseball all the time.
See, that's where I say it was not a good process, because had Fred Glass done some investigation into Archie Miller, his personality, some other things, had he talked to some schools who had looked at him and turned him down, maybe ask them why. I have a a friend of mine's a reporter at a school that did look at him and said they called him an island coach. He wanted to take everything, the program, the players out on an island away from everybody else so no one could see what was going on, which is exactly what he did at Indiana. And I think it was because he didn't know what he was doing. I don't know, but regardless. And then this Mike Woodson thing, Indiana was in a different position. They did not have the options that they have right now. And I think that Scott Dolson was kind of forced into this.
I also think, yeah, part of it with Woodson too was we were coming off of COVID. And it was one of those things where it was kind of hard to suss out which coaches were real, right? Like you were coming off of a very weird couple of seasons. Everyone's resume was kind of weird at the time. You talked about the options. No one knew how good of a coach anyone was at that point, other than like the top 5 guys in America, because everyone had just kind of been scrambled with COVID. So, and we're entering a new era with the transfer portal. I do think that Woodson, at the time, I understood why they did it, because it was one of those things where you just got a guy who could coach ball in there and see what happens. It turned out to not work as well as they hoped, but I could see the process. Now go get a guy for the first time since Tom Crean, who has proven he can win at a power conference level. That it should not be a particularly hard thing for Indiana to do. Now, again, I keep coming back to this. Louisville tried the same thing last year, and it didn't work. They ended up with a guy from College of Charleston whose resume looks damn similar.
Ironically, though, they had Dusty May.
Yes.
And that changed at the last second. I've not been able to confirm this, and I won't be able to confirm it, but I was told that part of that last minute change of mind was because of the ability to negotiate a lower buyout, of which he obviously did. So there's that.
So there is that. So yeah. And so if that's because Dusty had one eye on the IU job, okay, great. But I will say it's one of those things where Indiana might have to get somewhat far down the list of candidates here, because a lot of coaches are pretty happy where they are. I've heard it put this way, is that they can't control very much with their programs anymore, not nearly as much as they used to, but they can control where they are. They can control what they're doing, like with their kind of situation. And so jumping to a big job is maybe not quite as appealing as it used to be, because it's one less thing you can control, right? So I do wonder if that's part of it with some of these guys. Like Kentucky got turned down by multiple candidates last year. Nate Oates at Alabama turned down Kentucky. He's like, nope, I'm going to stay at Alabama.
But there's a lot of guys that will turn it down. But again, were they even viable? Nate Oates has an $18 million buyout right now. Hell, I don't know what it was last year.
Kentucky was willing to pay it, though. Kentucky wanted Nate Oates. He said no. Like that's one of those, like, same with Dan Hurley, where it was like, I'm sure his buyout
he doesn't need Kentucky.
He doesn't need Kentucky, right? He turned down the Lakers for God's sake.
Yeah, he doesn't need that. He's done quite well where he is. So
exactly,
they don't need to go up. Yeah. Now that could be said the same. We're quickly running out of time, but it's because it's been a great, fun conversation. What's up next for you, brother?
Yep, I'll be in Bloomington on Friday. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm excited to be there, back for that scene, and see if Indiana can get 2 in a row here.
It will be interesting and a great opportunity for Indiana. What happens if Indiana beats UCLA? What happens if they beat Purdue?
Yeah. They're right back in those first 4 in, last 4 out conversations. They're right back there.
I mean, I was more than convinced they were out, gone, done. But let's see if they can continue what they had last night. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Make sure you're giving him a follow. Be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive as well. We appreciate all of our peeps in Fort Wayne, especially those listening on the Fan 1380 up there. Keep it locked. Appreciate you, brother. We'll see you this weekend.
Appreciate that, Jim. Thanks as always. Have a good week.
You as well, sir. That's going to wrap it up for this hour. We've got more coming up. Rick Bozich is with us. Cal Neddenriep next. We'll get you a recap on what's going on in the high school scene, and then back to the big time with Rick Bozich. We're on again at the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios following this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at cheryl@indiehomepros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Wednesday. Grateful to have you along, no matter where and how you're listening. Just finished up with Dylan Sinn. Looking forward to talking to Kyle Neddenriep as we get closer and closer to the boys' Indiana High School Tournament this year. Can anyone stop Fishers? We'll see. There's a lot of good teams out there, but man, they've been running roughshod over. Travis Miller was on yesterday, and I was disappointed. I'll say that there's no doubt his fandom is readily on display, and hey, I guess it is what it is. Everyone's not a trained reporter, and maybe we'll get something different for Purdue. We'll see. But that was a little disappointing on his inability to just have general conversations about stuff without it running through the fan glasses. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Looking forward to talking to Rick Bozich today, get his take on this coaching situation and last night's gigantic win for Indiana. It was, I'm going to have to go back and look. I mean, when's the last time they had a win of that magnitude on the road against a team of that nature? Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joins us now. Kyle, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well, Jim. How are you?
Cannot complain. If I was any better, I'd be Kyle Neddenriep. How's the basketball keeping you busy at that time of year?
Yeah, definitely. Was out at Noblesville, Anderson last night, and Noblesville took care of business in a pretty good game. But lots of basketball happening right now.
Now, Fishers has been the team to talk about all year long. They're still up there. Who is a team that has a legitimate shot of knocking them off once we get to the playoffs tournament?
I mean, I would say, when you look at the sectional, that's a very good sectional. It's Westfield played them to a 3-point game last week. Actually, Westfield was leading that game by 13, middle of the third quarter. And they have Drew Hafner, Cam Hafner's brother, Scott Hafner's son, who can really light it up. He's he's a little streaky, I would say, but I saw them against Avon, and Westfield lost by 16 and got handled pretty easily. So they're kind of a team, I think, that can get hot in a sectional game, and would be very scary to see. But they obviously have Fisher's attention now after that game, so they'll certainly be ready. I think Fisher's probably felt like they didn't play their best game that night either. But the team I think still, in a sectional situation is Noblesville. And prisoner of the moment, maybe. I just saw them last night, and I did cover their game early this year when Fisher's just ran them out of the gym, their own gym. But I think this is a team, they've got two juniors who you'll be hearing a lot more about, and Barron Walker and Justin Curry. Curry already has Northwestern and some other mid-major offers. DePaul, I think he has an offer from. Walker's a guy I think is going to be, he's one of those guys, like, he's going to be a name people are going to know definitely going into next year, and should know now. But I would say, Noblesville, to me, they've won 11 in a row. They're in that sectional. Carmel's injuries have kind of taken them out a little bit. HSC's been up and down. But you look at Noblesville and Westfield, and Zionsville can be scary at times too. But yeah, I mean, when you look at that sectional, I think potentially Westfield and Noblesville. Then you get out of there, and the north half of the bracket. Anderson's out there. Anderson, I think, is a team that is capable with their Damian King, their standout senior, and then some really good pieces around him. But the majority of the teams in 4A, Fishers can get out of that sectional. The majority of the top teams are on the south side of the bracket, and that's kind of been the normal thing in recent years. Now, you do have Mount Vernon or Anderson, whoever comes out of there. Greenfield Central obviously is in that one too. That'll be a tough sectional. And Greenfield Central played Fishers tough, when they played at the Hall of Fame, and that would be a lot of fun to see, Braylon Mullins again against Fishers. But I don't know. I mean, to me, I think there's a gap between Fishers and everybody else. It's just how big that gap is on a given night. I do think teams like Fishers and Westfield, they know Fishers so well. They're so well coached, and they do have the personnel, I think, to give them a game. But, man, once you get out of the sectional, I just find it hard to believe Fishers is not going to, turn on the jets a little bit. But it's tough when you won 33 games in a row. You got everybody gunning for you. So that's another element they didn't deal with last year.
Yeah, I just think that Braylon Mullins is just not enough to take down that Fishers team, and it's kind of what it is. I don't mean any disrespect to the Greenfield Central team, but what is nice is to look at the top 10 and to see teams from all over the state and just in that tight 10. Of course, you start with Fishers, but then you have Anderson, Avon, Westfield, Warsaw, New Albany, Lawrence North, Crown Point, Jeffersonville, Evansville Wrights in the voting as well. So you've got teams from all over the state in the 4A class that are capable.
Yeah, and I think Anderson, I've seen them, seen them twice this year. And I really like their team. They ran into a little bit of foul trouble. King had 3 fouls in the first minute of the second quarter, and he still played with 3 fouls, some in the first half, which was a roll of the dice. But he turned it on in the second half, man. He ended up with 18 points, 16 in the second half, and they've got some good pieces. The question for them is, can they shoot it from 3? But I like that Anderson team. Some of the other. I think we know Jeffersonville's the real deal. I mean, I don't think anybody's questioning them. I think some of the other teams, like New Albany, people may not know, what they have exactly. And this Jeffersonville game keeps getting pushed back. And so, we that's kind of a good litmus test. I think when that game happens, we'll kind of know a little bit more about those teams, especially the New Albany side of that. But yeah, I mean, there are good teams all over the place, and that's pretty typical for 4A. I mean, there is a lot of Indianapolis teams just by the number of it, and a lot of really good teams. But yeah, I mean, it's not unusual to see teams like and Warsaw did get beat. I was surprised Marion beat them last night. That was kind of one of the surprising scores of the night to me. But there's a lot of Northridge is another team people may not know a ton about in 4A that I think will have a chance to make a run. You mentioned some of the others, Wrights and certainly Jeffersonville and New Albany. Whoever can come out of that. But then, like in the Fort Wayne area too, Fort Wayne is a really good team that got a good win over Homestead last night. Fort Wayne always has good basketball, so you'll have some teams out of there. And then South Bend's having a good year too. Is just overall for their high school team. So South Bend Riley's probably the best 4A team in that bunch. But then in 3A too, you have South Bend St. Joe, which is looking to potentially make a run. They made it to the state finals last year, and I think they could potentially win it this year. But 3A is a beast too, so it'll be tough.
I thought Jeffersonville New Albany was rescheduled for like last Friday or last weekend, and Tyrone is saying it is tonight now.
Yeah, it was supposed to be last night, and then got pushed back again because of the impending weather. I guess we didn't get anything here, so I don't know what you guys got there, but nothing. So yeah, it'll be tonight, which would be I'll be streaming that hopefully and watching it, but that'll be a great game, I think, and obviously a lot of rivals, longtime rivals going at it there.
Well, you've got two top 10 teams there, New Albany number 7 and Jeffersonville number 10. And so that's going to be a very interesting. New Albany has climbed through the season at 14-2. Jeffersonville had those early losses because they didn't have their star player, but they do now. So that is going to be, that's at Jeffersonville as well. So it'll be 5,500 Jeffersonville fans there making things difficult for New Albany.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun. And New Albany, one of the top freshmen in the state, Noah Washington, on that team.
Oh yeah, so, how about that kid? There's been a lot of talk about him.
Yeah, if people want to come out and see. I had a chance last summer to see him at the Charlie Hughes, and they have other good players too. It's not a one-man band by any means. Ryland Shrink, they're he's a senior for them. He's having a really good year as well, But Noah Washington, yeah, he's very smooth, very good player. Good size, good shooter. I was amazed.
6'5", right?
What's that?
It's like 6'5", right?
Yeah, he's about 6'5". But he was beyond. Usually, when I come to see a freshman, or you expect to see sort of an unpolished, maybe an athlete or a kid who can do one thing particularly well, but he was out there against other 4A opponents at the Charlie Hughes and really putting on a good show, and it wasn't like he was doing it the entire game, but you definitely for flashes, man, he was popping, and it was against North Central when the game I remember the most, and he took over for a good span of that and Charlie Hughes, so he's a really good player. He's going to be a nice one moving forward.
It'll be interesting to see what is up next for you, my friend.
Seems like a lot. Doing some traveling with going around the state a little bit, trying to get to a couple stories before we get into the sectionals. So look for those. I'm not going to give too much away, but here in the next week or so, I'll have a couple of those, and we'll be obviously covering a lot of high school basketball per usual, but also tracking this transfer bill that's going through it now went to the Senate, and I wrote a little bit about that, kind of where that stands now, and obviously there's more to come. The IHSAA is going to, they have another meeting next Friday, I believe, the 20th, which I think there could be some resolution on a decision there. So, but yeah, that's something else on top of everything else going on.
Yeah, that we talked about that previously, but to ease up the transfers amongst the athletes in the IHSAA, we've heard so much about this in the past. So this will be something good to see, just to get past all of the minutia. But will it help build some dynasties along the way?
Well, there's always fallout on stuff like this, and I would agree. If someone asked me this morning, what my thoughts were, good or bad or indifferent, and I said I'm sort of, it doesn't make for great commenting, but I'm sort of like I think there's good in the black and white of it for sure. I think that will eliminate a lot of time and maybe just sort of like, hey, here's the rule. And I remember talking about this 10 years ago with Bobby Cox, I'd say. Just the black and white nature of the rule, I think will make it better from a standpoint of people knowing what they're getting into when you transfer. And I think there'll be some stipulations on a second transfer, or I know there will be. So that will make it a little bit more clear, I think, and clear cut on what you can and can't do. Whereas now it's a little bit more gray, I would say, for sure. And sometimes, kids seem to, be made example of when other kids are doing sort of the same thing and are able to move. But on the other hand, it opens up like this weird thing where you're putting these freshmen and sophomores, you're sort of in the portal, to a certain extent. And there's rules against recruiting, but we know, there's ways around that also. So that's the part I do worry about. I think that's a real concern, but freedom of, the school choice is what's really driving this. And I think we'll see a change here before too long.
Absolutely. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow, keeping up with all things that are going on in Indiana high school, basketball, football-wise. Appreciate you, sir, as always.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.
Absolutely. Hey, we've got more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios with Sir Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Right after these messages, Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing, or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition, or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday, and that always means Sir Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Welcome aboard, sir.
How are you, Jim?
I am just lovely. How was your day started?
It's been okay. It's raining down here, but could be worse. It could be snow, so.
There, exactly. It is a little chilly out there, but all things were warm and toasty in East Lansing last night for the Indiana Hoosiers as they get not only the biggest win of the season, but how far back do you have to go to surpass this win? Purdue, maybe?
The Hood Shafino game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's right. And it was an impressive win because they took the lead there at the end of the first half and controlled the game most of the way. Made clutch free
come back from
throws.
12 down,
Yeah.
even
20-8. Yeah, and we've spent a lot of time bashing Mike Woodson through the years, but you got to give him credit for showing the flexibility to go into the 2-3 zone, which did work against Michigan. It worked again some last night, and he sat some guys that needed to be sat, and
did not start Malik Renew.
Or
oh my God, the hell broke loose. Hell froze over.
How about that? Or Rice didn't start Rice.
It just shows. It's like, okay, well, where was this flexibility and mentality, over the course of the last 3.5 years? But it's a shame you had to be beat over the head with a hammer until that acknowledgement finally comes. And look what happens. Look at the effort they get from the team and how it worked. Now, fortunately, it was probably against a team that worked as well against as anyone. I don't know that would have worked against Michigan. Michigan is just a good team, but it did. And who's to say that this won't work again Saturday against UCLA? Then they're gonna if they can beat UCLA, then beat the teams they should beat, they'll have a chance to take on a Purdue team at home. Do they have an outside shot of putting themselves back in consideration for one of those final spots?
I think they would have to have some success in the Big Ten tournament to do that, but yeah, they wouldn't be dead. I mean, if they can beat UCLA and then beat Purdue at home, I think they'd be back in the discussion, but that's still a big ask because the other teams that are in that range are all playing poorly too. I know that in the ACC, North Carolina's been in a bigger free fall than Indiana. Pittsburgh's totally collapsed. A couple of other teams I know have slumped. It's the SEC that's on track to get maybe 13 or 14 teams to get in a tournament.
Yeah, it's just kind of surprising to watch this. But how about Michigan? Michigan, a big win. Well, I mean, they were at home, so it's not like it's a shocker. But Michigan now leads the Big Ten Conference by a half game over Purdue. And those top teams are all playing each other in a circle. Michigan and Michigan State play twice before the season is out. Let's see. I think Michigan State plays Purdue again. Yeah, because Michigan's already played them twice. So it's going to be interesting. Michigan has a serious, legitimate shot at winning the Big Ten.
Yeah, they do. And that's very impressive for a first-year coach who rebuilt the roster on the fly. And good for him. He's a good coach. We saw that on Saturday. Handles himself well in press conferences. I think he'd be a fine coach at whatever school he worked at.
Absolutely. If anyone that was lucky to get him, and for him, regardless, he's going to be an even wealthier man after this season ends.
Yes, he is.
No matter what happens.
It'll be interesting to see what Michigan does to try and extend him and enhance his contract before he gets to the Big Ten tournament and everybody starts peppering with questions about it, and whether he go ahead and agrees to an extension or whatever by then. We'll know quite a bit by then.
I know that all of these things have to be back channeled right now, but you've been in this game a lot longer than I have, and you've done a hell of a lot better job at it. How much are they able to even gauge right now with where we are in a season race and all this stuff going on? And I know the agents have to get involved because that's the only people you can actually talk to. But how much are they finding out? Is there interest? Are you interested?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's already been determined with a lot of different coaches, agents who represent coaches who want to be involved in the Indiana job. Have already gotten word to Scott Dolson that they're interested. And I'm sure it works in the reverse fashion that guys that Indiana has interest in have made inquiries to their agents about whether their guys would be interested. It's already well underway.
Yeah, and I wonder how far that can even go. And I think it might depend on how successful your team is at the moment, obviously, because, a Michigan, hell, they could be playing deep into possibly into the beginning of April.
Yeah, they could be. And if Indiana's job isn't filled by then, we know a lot. I don't know. I mean, I think you probably have your list of these are our top 3 or 4 people, and these are the guys we're really going to focus in on. And we need to spend the next couple of weeks to do our complete background checks on them and figure out if their interest is legitimate, in listening to us, and whether they would come if we offer them the job. And then you just got to wait it out until we get to the point where some of these teams their seasons are over, and then you make your first offer and go from there.
Well, one name I have not seen yet, there it is. David gives us Norman Dale as a possibility. Well, he might be retired by now, but possibly he's certainly has done more with less. But yeah, I have gone through, and of the people that I think are legitimate, I went further and said, what are their buyouts? Are they still legitimate, a legitimate candidate? And there are some guys that I just don't think that are. TJ Otzelberger is one. I think that his buyout is just is too high. It's just too high. I think that is between $14 and $18 million.
Yeah. And the other part about TJ Otzelberger that I think makes it more difficult is that, and I've mentioned this before, and his wife is a former Iowa State. I thought it was volleyball, but somebody told me it was basketball. She's a former basketball star there. So she's probably an Iowan, and they're home. It's a great job. He's doing well.
He's killing it.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why he would be interested in Indiana.
He's being paid extraordinarily well. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, he's making, he's only making $3.5 million. That's a pittance, but I'm sure that goes up with each
You can
year.
get a raise out of it anyway, because I'm sure that, Iowa's going to probably be in the market for a coach this year. That doesn't mean they're going to go after him. They obviously probably wouldn't, but
They should.
Iowa will be paying market value for a coach, and he can find a way to get a raise out of this. Interesting name that was thrown out. I forgot who threw it out. Tommy Lloyd. Have you heard that one?
I have not.
Yeah, the Arizona coach. But I think you were there. I was there on Saturday. I mean, Dusty May handled the press conference really well. He talked forever. He talked more in one press conference than Mike Woodson has talked all month. And
he said everything but no, Rick.
He did not say no. He did not say no. He didn't make an emphatic statement of like, I'm not interested. It's flattering.
I'm not leaving Michigan. He did not say that.
He did not say that. He didn't
but
say
that's a smart thing to do, whether he is or not, because negotiating, man, he's no dummy. But on the other side of the coin, I think that is truly because this is a decision for him to make, and it is the toughest decision he's probably ever had to make in his life because of the money that's involved, because of just everything. It is a difficult decision, but there's no way that this is not beyond a fantasy job, because you think back when he was a manager under Knight and things were just, it was Indiana basketball still. Now that's gone away. He could be the guy to revive that. That in itself is an unbelievable challenge. It's also an unbelievable opportunity. It will come with a massive payday because they're going to have to pay more than he's being paid now. And all the talk about Indiana fans, well, who's going to want to come here? That crap doesn't mean jack to me. I don't think coaches care about the outside noise. They may talk about it or use it, but at the end of the day, they control that because it comes down to one thing: winning and losing. If you're winning, there's not much to complain about.
I mean, there's outside noise anywhere in any program that has any aspirations to be good. There was outside noise this year at Purdue football. After 2 seasons, they got rid of their coach, and Purdue is hardly a perennial power in football. They can be a good program. They're not great. I mean, there's outside noise right now at North Carolina around Hubert Davis, who went to the national championship game 3 years ago. There's Louisville plays NC State tonight. NC State made the Final Four last year. They've lost 8 straight games. There's outside noise at NC State. That's just what there is in today's world, outside noise. Any coach who has confidence and ability shrugs that off. You've learned how to handle it because you have to handle it. What I would say about Dusty May is I think he has to have a serious conversation with his family and himself and say, is that really my dream job? At some point in his career, I'm guessing it was. It may not be anymore. I don't know. I don't know him. But if it is, then he needs to seriously considering it, because if he turns it down, unlike the Louisville football job that Brom got, 4 years later, Indiana might not open again, because if they hire the right guy, the plan is not to be doing this again in 3 or 4 years. So this is an opportunity. You can say no, but the opportunity might not come around again. So he's the one who has to decide, in my opinion, how much it really means to him to be the coach at Indiana. And not only that, to come home. I mean, that's his home. He not only went to IU, he grew up in the area. His family's from the area. That's a big thing. So we'll see.
It's a huge deal. And it is also something that's never happened. There's never been I would have to go back into the annals of Indiana coaching history prior to Bob Knight to know where everyone was from. But in the modern age, this has not happened. A kid that grew up right here, a kid that was a manager for your team, is now would be the head coach of one of the prominent programs in the country. And yes, I get it. Indiana has not been prominent as far as their play. Let me be the first to acknowledge that. But if you don't think they're a prominent program, I think that you're not being realistic. They're just a sleeping giant, Rick. They are a program that can rise faster than your average program with the right guy. And because if you look at Louisville, which is also a prominent program, look what Pat Kelsey did. He came from the College of Charleston. Look what they're doing. Look what Mark Pope did coming in from Utah. Look what Dusty did going to Michigan. It can happen at a lot. Look what TJ Otzelberger's doing at Iowa State and in the middle of freaking nowhere. So if you think that won't happen again with the right guy, look at Kurt Signetti. I mean, they resurrected a program that was not dead. It was Egyptian wrapped, mummified. And so it's just a matter of time. There's no way with a sport that is so easily to be turned around with a program that has as many resources as you could want. So it's not a question to me of if, but just when they finally get this right.
Yeah, I mean, and look around at, boosters and fans. Would they all endorse Dusty May? I can't think of anybody who wouldn't.
I've got to be honest with you. The overwhelming majority I've seen comment-wise has been for Chris Beard.
Over Dusty May?
Over Dusty May. I see more people commenting about Chris Beard. Now, maybe that's because I'm not talking about him as much, and it's not because I don't think that he wouldn't do the same things. I think he would come in and be an incredible fit. I think he would have Indiana winning next year as well. But I don't know that Indiana will be able to overlook what Ole Miss overlooked.
I think that Dusty May and Brad Stevens, and you got to throw him in there as long as he's out there, are on a tier away from everybody else. They're the two big.
Is Scott Drew in that?
No, I don't think so, because he didn't go.
Even though, because he's financially doable.
Yeah. No, I think it's Dusty. I think it's Dusty May and Brad Stevens, who are
I don't think Brad.
fear
I
of
think
their
Brad
own.
Stevens is still a pipe dream because he's making $11.3 million as
Probably
the
so.
Celtics
Probably so. But I
president,
mean,
which has so
as
much
long as
less
he's
pressure.
out there and anytime there's an IU basketball opening, he's going to be mentioned. Those are the two. Then after that, it drops down to the next tier. I guess I have Scott Drew fatigue from last year. He was involved.
I get it.
With the Louisville and Kentucky jobs, and he gave Kentucky a longer, more detailed look than he gave Louisville. But in the end, didn't want to come. And I just think if he's not going to do that, what's going to change a year later when he's going to come to IU? It's not like he's got some huge IU connection. He grew up in Valpo, which is the northern part of the state, and went to Butler. He's not a huge IU guy. Chris Beard, for some reason, I just think that there's decision makers are not going to be able to get past the incident.
I think that there will be some that are for him, but I agree with you. I don't think there will be a consensus.
Right. And so then after that, then you start getting into the Cronins and the Buzz Williams and
those guys are not viable financially from a buyout standpoint.
Cronin.
What about Brad Brownwell, Evansville native and teammate of Calbert Cheney at Evansville Harrison?
He's done a solid job at Clemson. I like Brad. I've covered his team since Louisville's been in the ACC. His best 2 years probably been the last couple. He obviously just beat Duke and Carolina back to back. He's going to go back to the NCAA tournament. Last year he was in the Elite Eight. He's a fine coach. He'd probably do well. I don't know if he's going to move the excitement meter until he gets in and starts winning. He's not going to. I don't know. What about you don't like Chris Collins?
It's not about liking. He just doesn't jump off the page at me.
Right.
I think he's a solid coach. You have to be a solid coach to do what he's, even though it's been not great. It's been pretty good at Northwestern, which it's difficult. So obviously he's a good coach, comes from a great coaching family. So I don't think that you would turn your nose up at him. I just think that there are guys out there like Grant McCaslin who are showing that they can do it. Mark Byington at Vanderbilt, formerly of James Madison, who worked with Kurt Signetti. Right. The irony there alone. Ben McCollum at Drake, who is one of those young up-and-comers. He's another one as well. So
Buzz Williams, no? What about Buzz Williams?
Buyout. That's another thing. I know that there was an article written. I'm like, do y'all not look at buyouts, man? Nobody's paying for 12 to 16 million.
It is? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's that. Todd Golden, same thing. He's got like a $14 million buyout right now.
Nate Oates has a big buyout too, right?
Oh, yes, like 16 to 18 million, I think. People throw out Rick Pitino. He would have been a good get 4 years ago. I can't remember what his situation was 4 years ago, if he was in Greece or if he was in where the hell he was, if he was at Iona. It's hard to keep track of. But I would have taken Rick Pitino anytime, because I will say this. I think Rick Pitino is one of the all-time greatest college basketball coaches. And I think he is probably maybe the best basketball coach active right now, just because of his experience, his knowledge, his intensity, his desire to win, his ability to teach and coach his players. He's just a hell of a coach. He's a winner. I love him as a coach. But yeah, there's baggage there, of course, but it's not going to be him. Bruce Pearl, another one. This is probably too late for Bruce Pearl. He's going to be 65. Now, he could go 7 years probably, and that's a pretty damn good run to have a coach like that. So maybe it's worth looking at. I don't have his financial information, so I don't know what it is, but just don't know that you're going to move on from the number one team in the country.
Yeah, I think we need to focus in on Dusty May for a while. I think that's the
Well, it's his to turn down. I've said that over and over. I think it is his to turn down. And whether he does that or not, we're not going to know for quite some time because the season is yet to play out. There's 6 regular season games left, then the Big Ten tournament, then the NCAA tournament. So we're talking 2 solid months, maybe not quite, but it's going to be a minute.
Yeah, it is. And the Hoosiers have UCLA Friday, then Purdue next week. Is that right?
Yes, sir. They've got the opportunities coming and maybe that comes at the right time for Indiana. Wouldn't that be something to make a run at the end of the year after it's been announced that there's going to be a coaching change? Of course, the questions always come, well, where has that been? But we'll see. Hey, let's take our last break. We've got the great Rick Bozich with us talking some hoops, as it was a big night in the Big Ten as well. Some teams that are fighting for first place, taking L's, and some getting W's. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33 Pizza. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Made it halfway through the week, and Indiana, they made it through on a successful voyage last night, going to East Lansing and getting the best win that they've had in a few years. Reminiscent, Rick, of when Indiana had lost 13 in a row under Archie Miller and went up there and beat a top 10 Michigan State team. It's kind of ironic. And more importantly, Tom Izzo was looking to pass Bob Knight as the all-time Big Ten wins leader. And you know what? I could not see a more appropriate thing happen than for Indiana to say, not on my watch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that made it sweeter for Mike Woodson because he's obviously a former Bob Knight recruit, Bob Knight player. Bob Knight came to his practices the last few years. I'm sure that made it a little bit sweeter for Mike Woodson. And, we'll see if they can build on it going forward. I looked at Michigan State's schedule. He's now got Illinois on Saturday and then Purdue at home. And you're right, they do play Michigan. 2 of their last 5 games are against Michigan. So they play Michigan the last game of the year, and East Lansing could be for the Big Ten title.
Yeah, I just from what I saw last night, but of course you can't go off of one thing, but Michigan seems to just have a little bit better team because of Danny Wolf and what he brings. That it's something that, well, most teams don't have a 7-footer that can be pretty prolific from outside. And then you've got a guy in Vladislav Golden who he can be dominant in the middle. And that was the problem for Michigan State last night, is they had no answer for Omar Ballo. And then when he was relieved for Malik Renew, they couldn't stop either one of those guys.
Yeah, that was the best Renew's played since he got injured. I think Indiana did a better job of, when both those guys were in there, of clearing space, and they figured out which guy they were going to feed the post to on different possessions. And the other big man got out of his way, and Renew especially was able to do his thing, which is backing somebody down and then turning over his right shoulder and scoring. His footwork was really good. He knows how to pivot and draw head fake and draw guys up in the air and then score over them, and good for him. He's played with that brace now for several weeks, and I'm sure he's not close to 100%, but he does go out there and try, and he obviously accepted coming off the bench in that game and didn't pout about it. So you like to see guys like that get rewarded.
And I've got to say this, Woodson has taken a lot of grief, but rightfully so, for a lot of stuff. But I've been wondering, how is he going to respond to this? Is he just going to pout the rest of the year like it appeared he was doing with the not appearing on the post-game show with Don Fisher again, and having little
or the pregame show,
or the pregame, and having a 6-minute post-game presser with no players? But last night, both the team and Mike Woodson, to me, showed it. All right, we're going to fight out the rest of the season. We're going to try to go out winners, and which is the way it should be. You shouldn't have to wonder that, but at least that it appears that is going to be the case, and hopefully so. That will make it a lot better for Indiana all the way around. And who knows what they can end up doing with this newfound mentality, because their mentality was scrambled eggs for the last month.
I mean, their choice is obvious. Do some things that make people remember you in a positive way. This is the first time UCLA is coming to play in Bloomington. Beat them. Purdue comes, I think they have 9 days off after the UCLA game before they play Purdue, like a week later on Sunday. Beat Purdue, hurt their chances of winning the Big Ten. Then they've got, I think, Penn State, and then they have the West Coast trip to Oregon and Washington. Go out there and win a couple of games, and make a run in the Big Ten tournament. Win the Big Ten tournament. Do something that people remember you by in a positive way, instead of what they currently think about this team, which is underachieving. What you've seen in the games that they've won, like last night, is this team's talent should be projecting to a better record than they have. They have got the players where they should make the NCAA tournament. Right now, they're not on track to make the NCAA tournament because they've gotten blown out too many times and they've lost too many games that they should have won. And they've underachieved, and they've cost their coach the job. So it's up to them. How do you want to be remembered? Do you want to remember as a bunch of guys who missed the NCAA tournament and coach got fired, or you want to be remembered as a bunch of guys who got it together at the end of the year and went on a run and made the tournament and shocked some people? It's up to you.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know where the change lies. Some Fozon from Amon Jordan. We appreciate you being on from Amon. Fozon, I'm still waiting for my either a t-shirt or a hat from Amon Jordan, by the way. You can always reach out to me. I'll give you the address and I'll pay for it. It's just something cool to have. Fozon is one of he may be our, I can't say he's our furthest away listener, because I'd have to get on the map and figure that one out, but pretty damn far. Definitely the furthest live listener that I'm aware of. But I forget what I was even saying. I got all distracted. But
I was talking about how they have a choice to how they want to be remembered, and you were going to respond to that.
Exactly. I mean, there are still some guys on this team, specifically Anthony Leal and Trey Galloway,
Amen.
who are 5-year Indiana players, and they have to say, hey, you know what? This has sucked, but the end can be great. And a lot of people remember the last thing you do more than what you did 5 years ago or 2 years ago or whatever. And both Anthony Leal didn't do much last night, but he did just enough. He did what he's not done much of this year. He hit a pair of free throws when it was crunch time. And Indiana as a whole, they did everything they needed to do to win that game last night. I was shocked at some of the shots that went down, some of the defensive moves that they made, some of the free throws that guys hit, like Anthony Leal, who's a 56% free throw shooter, which is staggeringly unbelievable, but that's a whole nother thing. They just did the things they needed to do to win. And it was the defense really was. I was watching going, what the hell? These guys are playing like their head's on fire.
Yeah, I mean, they actually played a competent zone defense, and Michigan State's a good team to play it against because they're not a good three-point shooting team. I was surprised that Coach Izzo didn't have a better plan on how to attack the zone defense, especially coming out of halftime. But yeah, they didn't, and it was Rick, please wear a suit when appearing on.
When you're on
I'm battling the flu. I'm just coming off the DL, man.
I've never seen Rick Bozich in a suit in my life. Not that he needs to wear one. It's always at a sporting event. So why would I?
One of the ironies of the game was watching Xavier Booker for Michigan State jack up threes. He hit the first one, and then he thought he was Steph Curry, and he took a couple more. And there's a guy who was top 5 recruit in the country who went to Michigan State, and second year into his career there, he really is pretty much of a non-factor, right?
Absolutely. And that's another name, though. How many names do we see around the Big Ten and elsewhere that have gotten away from Indiana, kind of led to this point? Liam McNeely.
38 points last night. Yeah, I saw that.
Wow. 38 points, 12 of 22, 5 of 10 from 3-point, 9 of 10 at the free throw line.
Second game back from being injured, too.
And UConn is not ranked. They're unranked.
Well, they've lost a lot of games. They lost a home game.
I know. But, yeah, they'll get back in there. But
if they get in the tournament, they're going to be a dangerous team to play.
Liam McNeely, okay. Derek Queen just had a 29-point game the other day. It's just, boy, how lucky was Kevin Boyle last year at Montverde?
Plus, he had Liam Flag, McNeely, right?
Dake Queen, Cooper Flagg, Asa Newell, and there were 2 others that are the D1 guys that I can't even think of right now.
It's
that
crazy.
Was, yeah. He's doing a hell of a coaching job this year because they don't have that kind of talent. But who does? My God, that's a college all-star team right there. But speaking of which, Trent Sisley is playing for Montverde. He will be at Indiana next year. It does not matter what happens with his coaching hire. Trent Sisley is committed to play at Indiana, not for Mike Woodson, not for Scott Dolson, not for you or me. In his essence, he's playing for you people because he is going to play for Indiana. It's what he wants to do.
You're confident of that?
I am very confident of that.
Yeah. Other people seem to be saying that too. I mean,
as a matter of fact,
he and his dad know they're going to get a good coach.
I will guarantee it.
What better way to make your debut as be one of the building blocks of the new coach, especially if you're going to be a 3 or 4 year guy.
That is something that I have said a lot. He is going to be an important part. I'm not saying he's going to be Trent or Liam McNeely and have 38-point game as a freshman. Maybe he will. I don't know. But he's going to be a very important part of Indiana getting back to being Indiana. Now, that includes having to have the right coach. So I'm assuming that they're going to get it right this time. But with that said, Trent Sisley is I call him the prototypical Indiana basketball player. He's from Indiana. He played hard Indiana high school basketball before going to Montverde. He does it all. He can bring the ball up the floor. He can shoot from the outside. He can battle in the middle, get the heck beat out of you. He's just one of those guys that will dive on the floor, get the bloody nose. He is going to be there at Indiana for 3, maybe 4 years. Who knows? And he is going to be an important cog in Indiana, getting back to being what the fans want to see. Now, whether or not they can keep Zerno, that's another question, because he would be a great piece for, can you imagine a new coach coming in and having Trent Sisley and Zerno already as recruits? Now you go out and you get yourself, it's probably going to be 10 new players, Rick. I don't know anybody on this roster that will be here next year. I can't imagine that there will be.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe Tucker. I don't know. Maybe I don't.
Well, Tucker and Mbako are the only two that I'm like, who would you even want back? The thing about Tucker is, boy, does he need a shot in the worst way, a jump shot. Great athlete, but needs a jump shot. And Mbako needs that. He's going to have to learn how to play defense.
Yeah, I don't see Mbako staying around, and
I don't
the
either.
guys are seniors. Cups, I think, is going to leave. Newton can't stay healthy. I mean, you got a lot of work to do on that roster, but in the new world of the transfer portal, that's the good thing. You can do that work.
Oh, and that's the great thing is a coach coming in also knows he will more than have the funds to pretty much get whatever team he wants. And if it is the right coach, like I'm expecting it to be, I don't think that that's going to be problematic, because if they're a winner and a proven winner, and you're going to a place that, hey, they can offer me this, hell yeah, I'm going to be part of it. But I wonder how they can mix in bringing in players that you have to win, no matter where they are. And maybe some guys that were from Indiana have gone elsewhere and can be brought back.
I think there'll be a few of those guys, just like there was this year with Luke Goody. And isn't there an outside chance he could come back if he gets some kind of a waiver from the NCAA?
I don't know that happens.
Okay. But I mean, there's probably some other guys out there who are Indiana high school kids who'd like to come back. So that's not going to be a problem. The problem is getting the right coach. Get the right coach. He figures it out. That's part of the coach's job. And dive right into recruiting. The first year is always tough because you're behind in recruiting compared to other schools and building relationships with kids in the state. But I'm not even sure how good the class of 2026 is in Indiana. I think there's some younger kids who are really good in the state.
Yeah, I was just talking to Kyle Neddenriep. Obviously, the top of the class, Braylon Mullins, he's heading out of state. Does this possibly change things for him? Is that who knows? I don't know that he's signed anything with UConn, so that would be a conversation to have. What's up next for you, brother?
Oh, first, tonight Louisville plays NC State, which I'll be watching. I'll be watching the Hoosiers on Friday night against UCLA, and Louisville plays Notre Dame at Notre Dame on Sunday. So those are the games.
Appreciate you as always, brother. Look forward to seeing you soon, man.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. The great Rick Bozich joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Make sure you give him a follow, and you're keeping up with all things that he does in regards to college athletics. And, hey, if you're following us on YouTube, just give us a like. I don't care if you subscribe or not. Just give us a like, man. That we appreciate that more than you know. And I appreciate each and every one of you being with us today on the program. As always, it has been a blast. Looking forward to doing it again tomorrow as we keep it up. As the season rolls on, coaching search is underway. Big Ten title race getting tighter. It's all happening. But nothing happens without you guys. Grateful for you. Go out, have yourselves an incredibly good day. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.